I mean, yeah, he's her brother, but like, that doesn't matter. They're in love. Oh. What's up, book nerds? I'm Luckie's Universe, and in this week's video, we are taking a deep dive into one of the most contested are they, aren't they author controversies, the controversy of Cassandra Clare. Cassandra Clare is the author of world-renowned series like The Mortal Instruments, Infernal Devices, Dark Artifices, and many more. It's a collection of YA series that centers around a fictional universe where demons exist and angel-human hybrids called Shadowhunters hunt them. These series are insanely popular. If you haven't heard of them, where have you been for the last decade and a half? There's been a movie, there's been a TV show. It's a big deal, okay? If you had asked the high school version of me about my favorite books, The Infernal Devices and The Mortal Instruments were all I ever spoke about. I was an urban fantasy fangirl, a supernatural simp. But back then I never attached faces or personas to the authors of the books that I read. I didn't pay attention to who the author was. I just saw a book cover that I liked, and if the story was good, then wham, bam, new favorite book. I had no idea what Cassandra Clare looked like, who she was, where she lived, and I only stumbled upon her peculiar controversy a couple years ago in the midst of diving down the internet wormholes. This video is not going to be a critique of any of Cassandra Clare's books. It's just like a little tea spilling sesh for any of you who aren't quite up to date with Cassandra Clare's controversies. I will not be taking sides, I will not be condemning this author. But I will let you know, for the sake of transparency, that I am not an active fan of the Shadowhunter books. I reread them like once after high school and I found a couple things that I just didn't quite like, and since then I've stopped reading or promoting any of Cassandra Clare's materials. And it's not really because of Cassandra Clare as a person, I just don't vibe with her books anymore, and that's okay. So, grab a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, or an alternative beverage of your choice, and let's get into it. The year is 2000, and Judith Ramelt starts writing Harry Potter fanfiction under the name Cassandra Clare. And that's Clare with an A-I, not just an A. And yes, I know, Cassandra Clare isn't her real name. Scandalous. She wrote a very popular fanfiction called the Draco Trilogy, which built up what can only be described as a cult following. She was somewhat of an influencer amongst the Harry Potter fanfiction community, and when you have that much fame, one can only count down the minutes until someone starts digging up your dirt. So here it is. Here's the dirt. Some people started noticing certain similarities between Clare's work and some pretty popular TV shows, one of which being Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Clare had pulled quotes directly from these TV shows and used them in her books, but it was later revealed that this was sort of a game that she played with her readers, a spot the quote, if you will. But then, drama erupted when someone pointed out a few phrases that appeared to be directly lifted from the pages of a book called The Hidden Land, which I believe was out of print at the time. And that resulted in Cassandra Clare being banned from fanfiction.net, which was the site that she used to write and post her fanfictions. Riot was incited. Well, kind of. People were taking sides. The original accuser wrote an essay, and I've talked about this before in the writing industry. If someone writes an essay about you, shit is gonna go down. There were even cyberbullying claims being tossed around, but those were never actually backed up. Eventually, Cassandra Clare landed her book deal for The Mortal Instruments. She changed her name from Clare with an AI to Clare with just an A and took all of her fanfiction down before 2007, which was when her first book was released. And then all of her past was just put behind her. Or was it? Now, there is a lot of speculation as to what Cassandra Clare's fanfiction was really about. Since she's taken it all down, the only information we can glean is from those who actually read it back in the early 2000s and from whatever scraps remain deep in the archives of the internet. So what I'm about to say has been precariously picked from multiple corners of the web. It is said that Cassandra Clare got the title of her famous series, The Mortal Instruments, from one of her fanfictions. The The fan fiction was supposedly a Ron and Ginny romance, and I don't know that much about Harry Potter, but I know enough to understand that Ron and Ginny are siblings. Yikes. Some people will say that City of Bones, the first book in the Mortal Instruments series, is just directly taken from her fan fiction and published in book form, much like how 50 Shades of Grey was Twilight fan fiction. But this is a shaky claim. Most agree that she just reused the title. But if the incestuous content of Clare's fan fictions is true, it seems it has also smuggled itself into the plotline of her published works. Which brings us to Cassandra Clare and the romanticization of incest. This part is just a little thought train of my own creation, and it's not a direct critique on her books, it's more just a critique of the overarching themes that appear in her novels and in other media types. If you are not aware, if you have not read The Mortal Instruments, let me shed a little light onto the situation. Clare originally planned the series as a trilogy. It ended up spanning 7 books, but the main plot of the first 3 books is our main girl, Clary, discovers the world of Shadowhunters along with this dude called Jace, and then as time goes on, Jace and Clary fall in love, but not all of it is a happy ending, because Jace and Clary then find out that they are siblings. Tragic. I'll release you from your horror. They're not actually related, they were just led to believe that they were. I don't remember a lot from these books, but I'm pretty sure readers knew that Clary and Jace weren't brother and sister. I might be getting confused. But when it comes down to the nitty-gritty, it doesn't really matter what the readers know. Jace and Clary, the characters, fully believe that they are siblings. Which is super icky when they realize that they've already shared a steamy kiss and fallen in love. Awkward. Despite this knowledge, Jace and Clary still pursue a relationship, and it is fraught with desire and longing and makeouts, which usually I'd be all for, but mate, incest just doesn't get my gears going, you know? I think what made me a little uncomfy about reading this is the fact that Clare seemed to be lathering this incestuous relationship with romance, and for books with a very young teenage readership, this can be dangerous. To clarify, I'm not really that concerned about incest plot lines in adult novels like Game of Thrones, because I assume that most of the people reading those books are adults. But when it comes to teenage readers, I feel like there's a very fine line. When I first read this book, I was probably 13 or 14 years old, and I thought Clary and Jace's relationship was relationship goals. I mean, yeah, he's her brother, but like, that doesn't matter. They're in love. Oh. It wasn't until I was older that I realized that this avenue of thinking was a little messed up. Now, let's fast forward to 2016. It's lawsuit time. Dear old Cassie gets slapped with a lawsuit from author Sherilyn Kenyon, who wrote a popular fantasy series called Dark Hunters. And this author was calling Clare out for copying her books, using similar themes and ideas, and profiting off that. For context, the Dark Hunter series was released in 1998 and was about an elite group of warriors who were tasked with protecting the human race from paranormal threats. Sounds similar? A little bit, but is it similar enough? Cassandra Clare's legal team clapped back, they denied all accusations, and we didn't really hear much about the situation after that, so we can assume that the suit was dropped. Which seems likely because, as someone with a writing degree who has studied creative copyright infringement laws, it is so messy and really not something you ever want to have to deal with. Now, that was 2016. Let's backtrack to 2013. Let's talk about the movie. City of Bones, what a hot mess. This movie had so much going for it. The Harry Potter and Twilight movies were finishing up, we got The Hunger Games, we got Divergent. Basically, any popular YA book series was shooting its shot with movies between the years of 2012 and 2014. Unfortunately, the City of Bones movie flopped big time. It got a 12% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. What is so controversial about a movie flopping? Not much, but what was a little sus was that Cassandra Clare was talking a big game about this movie and her involvement in it, but as soon as the low ratings were released, she suddenly changed her tune and said that she wasn't really that involved in it, allegedly. She posted a Tumblr essay about the situation. I feel like that's every author's go-to response method, just write an essay. But after that was released, everyone kind of forgot about it and moved on. Since then, the TV show Shadowhunters was released, which garnered mixed reviews. And to put my own little personal thoughts in here, I for one hated it and quit after season 1. Producers did say that they were going to deviate quite a lot from the books, and boy, did they. But for me, there was just too much change, and I feel like they lost all of the magic from the books. They had pretty subpar actors, although I will exclude Alec, Magnus, and Simon's actors from this. And all that combined with low budget effects, it just wasn't it. But that is only my opinion. I know a lot of people who loved this show. In any case, it was cancelled after 3 seasons. So, now you're all caught up on Cassandra Clare's controversies. She's still writing books, she's still a household name in the world of YA. People have tried to quote-unquote cancel her every couple of years, but it never seems to stick. And unfortunately, when compared to authors who are racist, homophobic, transphobic, plagiarism just doesn't seem like the worst thing an author can do, and that makes me really sad. Like, when did our standards become so low? There's little gossips here and there about Cassandra Clare using 2 of her characters, Alec and Magnus, as like gay tokens. And also, in my opinion, there's the issue of most of the people of color in the Shadowhunter universe being demons or downworlders, but like I said, none of that ever stuck. And that concludes this little tea spilling sesh. I hope I've provided you with the good goss, and if you have any thoughts, ideas, or opinions about Cassandra Clare, I encourage you to leave a comment. I love hearing about you guys' opinions. If you don't already follow me on TikTok, make sure to go check that out because I post some pretty cool stuff on there, and I will also leave a link to my Goodreads account down below so you can keep up with what I'm reading. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you later.